Sean, you said the tape wouldn't be fun, but it would be kind of revealing. What did you see?
Well, I thought this. I thought, number one, I certainly didn't see the effort and energy that we would have hoped for. Part of playing well consistently, requires all 11, and that's really in every phase. It's the first time where you put it on, and we watched it as a staff every phase of the game together. So I think that's one thing that stood out. Obviously, the turnovers, some of the protection issues early on. I thought we were outplayed in the kicking game. I thought defensively we couldn't get off the field on third down, and went another week without creating a takeaway. It was disappointing, and our players are in watching it now with the coaches. It's our jobs very quickly here with an important game coming up to make corrections, and then also to look closely at who we're asking to do certain things. And so I think it's a tough day when you come back off a game like that. You put the film on, and I think it's important film for everyone to see, though.
Sean, looking at Charles Brown right now, what's your thought process on where he stands in terms of starting?
Well, there's not going to be any specific decision. I mean, we'll look closely at our options. And in fairness to him, I think there were a lot of other things we didn't do well in that game. We didn't particularly run the ball efficiently. Defensively, we really struggled, giving up some big plays. You had the one pass goes up the sidelines with 8 guys watching. You have a couple long runs, missed tackles. The kicking game, we can't kick a field goal. We have one blocked, which was a low trajectory kick. The other one we just shanked to the left. We get an onside kick against us. We're alert all week for that possibility, and so it's hard to just say or pick out one specific player. Obviously when you're at left tackle, it becomes more glaring because it results in a pressure or penalty. But we'll put a lot of thought into the best way to approach this week as we get ready to play Carolina.
Sean, that being said, will you consider a change at kicker, or are you sticking with Garrett even after another tough game?
Listen, I think we're looking closely at every element. I told the players today in the team meeting we're looking closely at each aspect of this team, and I think, and not trying to read into my answer, Mike, I just think that it's important for us to do that. I mean, I think that whether it's a tackle position, whether it's a player on defense, I think the one thing that I know I don't want to do is just repeat the process over and over again. And so we're going to look closely at what our options are and what gives us the best chance as we get ready to play this coming week, and then obviously one week remaining.
How do you determine if a guy just had one bad game versus not being the right fit for you at that position in the starting lineup?
Well, it's a good question. You spend a lot of time looking at body of work, production, and I think that if it's something that is repeated itself and you feel like it is not going to change, then I think you look closely at what are your other options.
What do you need to do, and we're speaking of Charles Brown, to make sure there's not that, for lack of a better word, a mental snowball when you have such a bad game, no matter where you go, where you move forward from here?
Well, look, that's the confidence in winning and losing, that exists with. That doesn't just exist with the players. That exists with the coaches, the play caller, the head coach. The confidence of playing well, or having that adversity, and so the first thing you point to is a good work week, a good week of preparation, so that come game day you've eliminated some of the indecision, maybe, if you will. You've eliminated some of the gray area, if you will. And so I think this week is going to be very important for us.
In the whole idea with the offensive line, I imagine Zach Strief is not part of that equation, or is he? Or do you feel there is?
I didn't say either. In other words, we'll consider and look at every option.
Hey, Sean, it's maybe hard for us to discern whether the analogy of like pulling a hockey goalie after 4 goals in the first period is relevant or not.
Well, look, it was one aspect that I think we needed to change during the flow of that game. I think that I think there's some position groups maybe where it could happen. Wide receiver, defensive back, running back, and you might not even be that much aware of it because of substitutional patterns or various guys play. But there's there's that one position at quarterback, and then those 5 offensive linemen that pretty much each week get the same snap count. And then there's a handful of players defensively the same way. So I think there's more attention drawn to it. But I felt it was the best thing to do at the time. And again, like I mentioned at the beginning, that there were a lot of things we didn't do well aside from handle the pass protection at left tackle.
Sean, Drew said something to the effect of he thinks maybe the mentality on the road, especially when you guys have gotten down early, maybe you referenced that it's a younger team, even though there's some veterans on the team, just not necessarily, I don't know if he meant in a confidence matter, or just not showing that they can bounce back from that. Is that something you've seen? Or?
Well, I mean, we were just talking about that subject. A good example was Atlanta. Thursday night, where our first series, I think we're 3 and out, and then they were able to drive the ball down and score. And so we fell down 7-0. But I would say a critical juncture in that game, be it in the first quarter, was that drive that we had to tie it up. And so I do think that, look, how the game starts off, and I do think it's a younger team, and it's not any one specific player, but I think that momentum, or us being able to answer the call when that momentum shifts, because in our league, that's fairly common where that momentum goes back and forth, and obviously when you're at home, you've got that other element with the crowd noise and all those other things working in your advantage. But I think that example of Atlanta and us being able to come back and tie the game up and then eventually go ahead, I think that you can't take for granted that it's the same team maybe as you had in years past. It's a different team for the most part. I mean, if you look at the overall roster.
Sean, can you pinpoint why your team seems to struggle on the road? And also, can you talk a little bit about the challenge you guys faced having to go on the road, needing this win this upcoming Sunday?
Well, I don't know. I'd like to be able to pinpoint one specific thing and say, hey, we're going to change this one element and all of a sudden play better. Historically, during our years here, we've been a very good road team. Obviously, I said this yesterday, we're currently 3-4 on the road this season, and that's something that, is just below average. It is what it is. So the challenges Carolina present, obviously, they're a real good football team. We just played them a week ago, and both teams have a lot at stake. So I think it's going to be very important that we have a good plan going in and are able to handle, the challenges of whether it's noise, weather, whatever those are. We're going to be tested with it.
Charles Brown is still a young guy on this team. A week like this, you think this will go a long way to show you what he's about, what he's made up of? Not no matter what the final decision is with what happened on Sunday.
I think it'll be very revealing for a lot of us, not just one position. It's you have a game like that, and all of a sudden you're coming down the stretch here with two weeks left in the season, an important game this week. over a period of time, I think these experiences are very revealing for all the players and coaches. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sean.